Jump off that exhausting hamster wheel and into balanced living with Dr. Marissa.
Promise you joy in the mystery.
Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, laugh, love, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And welcome. You are tuned into my weekly talk radio TV show called Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get happy, get balanced with Dr. Marissa every Tuesday at naturally high noon, broadcasting out of Burbank, California with UBN Go Studio and syndicated on my CNBC NBC channel KCAA on Saturdays at 6 a.m., 1050, FM 102.3, FM 106.5, and all the time, anywhere on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Spreaker, TuneIn, iTunes, you name it. I'm all over there because I want to splatter more hope and happiness over you. Therefore, on this show, there is no gossip, no scandal, and no K words, no Kardashian talk, and no Kanye talk, because I want you to focus on your own reality show and how you can be happy 88% of the time. And if you missed any of my past shows with fabulous guests, Fran Drescher talking about how to reduce the risk of cancer, Corey Feldman, Marianne Williamson to Marianne from Gilligan's Island. Just go to my YouTube and you will see my shows there. It's a free subscribe. And today is actually my 436th consecutive week on the air. I can't believe it's over 8 years. Any COVID, no COVID, whatever it is, I'm still here and I'm still delighted to bring you really fascinating people. And today is definitely no exception to the rule. My guest is T.M. Garret. He is a German-American human rights and interfaith activist. As a former Neo-Nazi and KKK leader in Europe who left hate groups and extremist ideology behind in 2002. He's now a motivational speaker against hatred and anti-Semitism. In 2016, he founded C.H.A.N.G.E, a nonprofit organization engaging in community outreach programs, food drives, seminars, anti-racism campaigns, and anti-violence campaigns. In 2018, he founded the annual Memphis Peace Conference. T.M. Garret also works closely with the Simon Wiesenthal Center and has lectured at schools like Harvard, Dartmouth, Vanderbilt, Boston Law School, Hotchkiss and Pomona. Please welcome to my studio, T.M. Garret.
Hey, thank you so much for having me today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we actually met, I found you on a town hall last week, and that was put on by, remind me of the name.
The Lorna something Institute. I'm not getting the name right.
I know. I was hoping you would, because I thought of it in the last minute. She pulled together a fabulous group of people. And the reason why I was tuned in was because my big brother is Michael Bernard Beckwith, who, by the way, we were just texting and I told him that you were coming on. And he said, please tell you from Michael Bernard Beckwith that it was wonderful. He sends his love for collaborating on that town hall. And I said, I'm definitely inviting you to Agape. So that's from my big brother, Michael Bernard Beckwith, a personal hello. And I have to say, I always have fascinating people, but I usually have people who have come from some kind of, Jessica Cox was born without arms. Frederick had his arms cut off in the Rwandan genocide. Nick Yaris was the 140th person released from DNA evidence from spending his life in prison. So it's people who've had like hardships who are sharing how they, got to where they are now. You, on the other hand, are a great example of why it's not, there's always hope. There's always, because I was asking in the part 1 and 2 with Akuyo Graham, how do you love people who hate? How can you possibly approve of people like the KKK, like white supremacists, who actively hate and discriminate and are racist? So I brought you here because you're a symbol of hope and you have an extraordinary true story. So I'm going to ask you to go to the beginning and tell me what it was like and how you got into neo-Nazism and white supremacy and became a leader of the European KKK.
Well, I'm trying to make to put it in a nutshell, because otherwise I will talk for 3 hours, and I believe that won't work on the show. I like to talk a lot, and you will realize that during the show. So I come from a very dysfunctional family in Germany. That's where the funny accent comes from. And my family moved to a very small town in southern Germany in 1975. That's the year when I was born. They were outsiders. They were from another area. They spoke different. They were the newbies, the only Catholics in town of Protestants, not practicing, but just the fact that they were Catholics. On top of that, they had a drinking problem. On top of that, they divorced. I was an accident. I was not planned. My sisters, my brother, they're all older than I. 13, 11, and 8 years older than I, and 8 years nothing. And I happened during a divorce. Hallelujah. Here I am. My mom, with a drinking problem, had no idea what to do with me, other than get me through school. So the whole family already had a big problem in the town, didn't get accepted because of all these problems. And that reflected also on the children. So, and I thought something is wrong with me, In fact, it was a lot of parents that told their kids not to play with me because of my family's reputation. But a 5-year-old doesn't understand that. So in kindergarten, I felt like an outsider. I had these ugly glasses. I had like crossed eyes, and one glass was covered, and I hated that. And I had these over-the-top school clothes, like just some khakis. The other kids had jeans, I had fancy shoes. They had tennis shoes and so on, And what made me a weird kid. And on top of that, different dialect, family's reputation. On top of that, I had an identity problem. My mother was adopted. Her parents, there was a couple from Belgium. They had that French accent that was completely weird to me. Other than that, there was no family on her side. On my father's side, there wasn't much family. They were actually refugees from a part that's today Czech Republic. After the war, they got kicked out by the Russians and the Czechs as a revenge for what the Nazis did. So they came to Germany as refugees from there. They didn't talk about that. So I didn't even know where the family comes from. And other kids had some sort of other identity. Like one was a Boy Scout, the other one was in sports and stuff like that. Their dads would influence them and lead them too. I didn't have a dad. He moved out when I was born. He died when I was 8. He had lung cancer. There wasn't much interaction anyway. And I tried to fit in. I tried to have an identity, a meaning, a purpose in life. That was the sense of belonging, And I just had a big problem with that. The other kids had all that. And then it started with the age of 13. I was that bullied kid in the corner. I would have done anything to get out of the corner. Started with anti-Semitic jokes and racist jokes on the schoolyard. Mostly the boys in puberty were telling each other those jokes. And at some point, they just went back to normal. Problem was, I didn't have a normal to go back to. My normal was the bullied kid. So I ran with those jokes longer. And I got put in a box. Lid closed, labeled, oh, that's the Nazi kid. And nobody opened the box anymore. I just started to fit in the role, developed. Then I joined a group of skinheads and then a neo-Nazi party. And at the end, I ended up in the KKK, became the European leader. I worked up on the career ladder. and became that. So I lived that life in those groups for about 15 years. I wasn't recruited. It was me reaching out, you know?
Okay, so you were looking for a place.
Absolutely.
They didn't come. Now, did you actively recruit others? And what would you look for? Was it purposeful? Was there, I kind of want, you're like one of the only insiders I know, or maybe want to know, but just understanding, are all the members of KKK people who are like you, didn't fit along, or, you know, parents hate, kids hate? Can you give me like a psychological profile of people in there?
That is not that easy, because the extremist far right or the white supremacist movement is not a homogeneous movement. It's very diverse. The only common factor they have is the hatred against, let's say, minorities, anything that's different. So how you hate and what you base it on, that can be different. You know, many here in the US base it on religion, you know, justified with religion. Some others with politics, some others with history and genes and what. So that is different. And they all work sort of together, but their methods are very different. And in my case, when I joined that group of skinheads, it was just about provoking. There was no ideology. When I joined the Neo-Nazi party, it became about ideology. And that was in Germany. Germany first. The Muslims are coming and taking this country away and all this stuff. And I wanted to defend that country so bad. And it was my identity became that German. Being German was my identity at that point. Later in 98, when the internet really took off, I had a computer and chat rooms, and I saw in other countries people that thought like me, and they had the same problems, they told me. So I was like, oh, it's not about Germany. That's about the white race. We have to defend it. So then my identity shifted from being a German to a white person who has to defend their race. And this is also when the anti-Semitism became very prevalent and very, very, I was a full-blown anti-Semite at the time, but it took like 10 years. So in these groups, you address different people. Skinheads, of course, that is more about subculture and more about that entertainment and getting them in. And some groups are even into gang activities and drug dealing and prison gangs. While you have a party that's more like the alt-right. They try to recruit people out of the midst of society, lawyers, whatever. And they don't look this radical, you know, close, normal and everything. Then when you talk about the KKK, we're here in the US now. So that is something that everybody in the US knows. Oh, I've heard that before. I know what it is. And there has been different, they call it eras in the KKK. And, you know, there was the first one that was from 1865 and it was founded to, I believe, 1876. I probably butchered the date. Here in the US. And it was actually banned as a terrorist organization at the time. The KKK was not allowed anymore. Then it had a revival in 1915, came up again as a big organization. In the 40s, the IRS shut it down because they accumulated IRS debt. And this is the reason why there are so many clan groups around now, because nobody wanted to pick up the bill and everybody could be their own leader. Oh, we open up our own group, you know, and these are the blah, blah white knights, the Bayou white knights and the loyal white knights, and you name it, it's out there, it has been out there. And everybody claims to be that original. So there are many, many groups. And for many years, they could recruit.
How did they fall out of terrorist organization classification? Because when Akuyo was on, you know, we're signing this petition to make them a terrorist. How did they become not a terrorist organization?
Well, because it's technically a different group that they founded. It was not the same group. They didn't define them as the successor, which today they say, oh yeah, of course it's a successor. But this is today, if you have a group with different members, you don't revive the old group. It was 30, 35 years later, 45 years later. Most of those members were not even alive anymore. So you don't revive that forbidden group. You're founding something new that is similar or has a similar name. So they could get around that. And even their apparel was a little different. Their constitution and laws that they really have was different. They founded that.
But the similarity was definitely the hate. The hate of anything that was not white. Yeah.
Correct.
And
correct.
yeah. So
Preserving white supremacy, because this country was built on white supremacy on the back of non-white people. It is what it is. It's
right.
true, and they wanted to preserve that white supremacy at the time, because there was, of course, a change already. 1865, emancipation, declaration, and freed slaves, and then the right to vote, and so on and so on. They could see, okay, there's a development here, and they wanted to stop that, to keep the status quo. That was the main goal, but also anti-Catholic, anti-Jewish. So that was their main, the white Anglo-Saxon Protestant.
Yeah,
that
anti-Asian.
Yeah, well. Correct. Yeah. Correct.
And if you've just, sorry, I'm just going to do a brief station ID in case people are just joining in. If you're just tuning in to my weekly talk radio TV show called Take My Advice, I'm not using it. Today's guest, and we're talking about the KKK. Yes, you can, you're not hearing things. We're actually talking about that today with T.M. Garret, who was the former European leader of the KKK and a neo-Nazi. And he is here today to explain how he went from that to a peace activist. And we're kind of in the first third of the story. And you are now firmly ensconced as I hate anti-Semitism. I hate Jews. I hate anything not white. I hate anyone who is trying to take over my country and infiltrate. I don't care if they're refugees. I'm putting words in your mouth now, but I'm just guessing, anything that is not white is the enemy and should not only be ignored, they should be destroyed. So did you, without incriminating yourself, participate in harm? So did you actively do things to hurt people who were not a value?
When we were as a member of a skinhead group, of course, we went out, we got drunk, and of course it ended up being street fights, either in Germany. Germany has a big Turkish population, so that was our main enemy group that we found. But anybody, it could be the far left or whoever we found that fit as one of our enemies, we would attack them or even provoke them to attack us. Because when they attacked us, we could justify our existence. Because look, they hate us. We have to defend ourselves. This is what we did very often. Went to the part in town where we knew there was a lot of immigrants, and we would go there with bald heads and our boots and everything, and the patches in our jackets and everything, and we would know they would attack us because of that. And we would use it to prove our point. So that's when there was violence involved. Later, when I joined the party, I went away from that because I said different reasons. Because I had 3 children at the time already, and I was like, I'm not good for my children if I'm in prison. I'm not good for the cause I was standing for when I'm in prison. And also, I thought and still think prison is a very scary place. I just didn't want to go to prison. And this plays a very important role. When I was on the top, the pressure was so hard. Germany, with its past, with the Holocaust, has done a great job in the past atoning for it, making up for it, making sure it must never happen again. Therefore, they have very strict hate crime laws. You cannot say the N-word, you go to prison. You cannot deny the Holocaust, you go to prison, and stuff like that. They put their finger on the problem very tight. And so they were watching us. And being the leader with that group that has that reputation here in the US as well, even though we said we're not violent, well, the government was still looking. And they said, hey, if something happens, any of the members committing any violent crimes, it would be me. I would go to prison as the leader. Right. And I was scared to death. I didn't want to go to prison. And I was just so under attack, that I kind of retired. And I had a lot of thinking. There was a lot of things that were in my head. But that was the main thing. I was kind of pushed out by the pressure from the government.
So it wasn't necessarily you had a moment on the road to Damascus at that point.
Yet.
Right.
Not yet. I wasn't even on my road to Damascus, if you want to say it like that.
Okay.
I haven't even left yet.
Okay.
So at the time, I was like, okay, I'm retiring. I even appointed a successor and told them next year you hold elections and vote a new, what they called Grand Dragon or Imperial representative. Anyway, I still was sticking around with them for one reason, because I was so long in that movement. I made all my money in that movement. I had merchandise, mail order. I repaired computers, sold computers in that movement. That was my job. I knew if I disengage from everybody, including the people, I will be unemployed and then find a job. What do you put on your resume? What did you do the last 5 years? Leader of the European KKK. No, hell no, you don't put that on your resume.
Okay.
So you have the gap. You can't explain it, or even longer, 10 years. So that was a big problem. But after a couple of months, it got so tough. And I said to my back then wife, we're divorced now, and said, we have to get away from these people. We have to start over new somehow. I was still a racist. I was still Islamophobe at the time, still anti-Semitic. We moved to another town. And this is the hard part. It's like in an abusive relationship. You know it's toxic. And a lot of people in that movement, in any extremist movement, even jihadist groups or sects, cults or whatever, they know every now and then, oh, this is toxic. But you have a hard time getting out, because you know if you leave to whoever what you're leaving, you'll be a traitor. They will hate you for that. Like in an abusive relationship, the husband will hate you for that. Maybe looking for you. Where did you go? You have to flee. You have to go to another town, find new friends, maybe change your name, find a new job. And in my case, throw away my whole identity. And we talked about identity. That was all I had. That was the first time I had that identity, you know, and I had to throw it away, but I had to make that step. And now comes the really ironic part. It was in 2002, 1 year after 9/11. And there was not much on the internet. I picked up like the newspaper, the classifieds. There was one apartment further away that was available a week before Christmas. Picked up the phone, and the guy with a Turkish accent picked up the phone. I was like, really? The only apartment is owned by a Muslim? Really? You kidding me? But hey, I was desperate. So we went there, interview for the apartment and everything. Of course, we start talking. So we told him a little bit about, he got the feeling we were running away from something. He didn't know exactly what. And he knew there was some trouble involved, whatever, but he gave us a chance. And I started lying to myself. I was like, it's only temporary. I will find something different. Look, a couple months prior to that, I would never have put a foot in his house. He lived in the same house. You know, our first floor was a garage, and the basement, second floor, was where he lived. And the third and fourth floor, that's what he rented to us. So in the stairways upstairs, you would meet him sometimes, because there was this apartment door. We moved in on Christmas Eve. I had nothing. We slept on a mattress. I had no money to buy any presents for the kids. We had no money for food, nothing. And he knew that. So he started offering me a job. His computer kept breaking, you know, and I started repairing his computer. It was already a big deal for me getting into his apartment, repairing that, but I was desperate. I needed to feed my kids. Later, I found a job. Staffing company. They don't ask questions. They don't care about a resume. So problem with the resume solved with a big gap, which means I wasn't that desperate anymore. Instead of refusing to help him, I just refused the money. It still helped him, because I felt like he's kind of nice, but I tried to figure out, why is he nice, you know? Again, 1 year after 9/11. And I was convinced he was just like Osama bin Laden. He will murder me in my sleep. He and his Muslim friends will take over the country and destroy this country. I was convinced. So I tried really hard to unmask him, you know? And so hard, and I helped him and everything. And I tried to figure out, is he just nice? What's going on here? That's weird, you know? Like, I'm hating Muslims, but he doesn't hate. That's different. I don't know why. Then one moment when my hate started to crumble was when he invited me for dinner. And I went for dinner. That was, it was about food. I don't know if you know a lot about like Arab culture in general. When they offer you food, I heard they're horribly offended if you don't accept the generous offer. And I was expecting him to put their couscous and falafel or whatever stuff I don't like, I don't want, or whatever at the time. I just wanted German stuff. And first it was really something Mediterranean and fish soup. And I just can't stand fish soup. And I was like, there we go. Now is my chance. Now I can find out how offended he will be, and he will turn into the Muslim terrorist that I always knew he was. I can unmask him now. This is the chance. Well, the problem was it didn't happen. I tried so hard to expose him, and I was not successful. Why? Because there was no mask to pull off his face. It was just him. He was just a nice human being. I was the guy with a mask on. And I was like sitting at the dinner table with a family, and I was so stunned, and I felt small, I felt wrong, and that hate just crumbled in front of me. And this is when I knew I was at crossroads. I have to make a decision. Am I going to take these crumbs, put them back together to a loaf of hate that I used to nurture? Or am I going to analyze them? I was like, I need to find out, what about other Muslims? Are they just nice like him, or are they just pretending? I was still convinced in their mosques they'll probably be taught how to slaughter Christians, you know? That's what I thought.
I hope you get the irony. You said you started it with the irony, but the irony of listening to someone share this story who's an active hater and having these thoughts about another active hater or perceived. I'm sorry, I had to just like, you may feel ironic, but I'm feeling very incredulous, but go ahead.
You said something like I was a hater and I was expecting hate back. This is exactly what happened. Because question to anybody who's listening now or later when they listen to this, who likes Nazis? And I hope nobody. Okay. But also, if you ask who hates Nazis, look, I speak at a lot of synagogues, black churches. And if I ask who hates Nazis, I see all hands up.
Yeah.
But here is the part of the problem. If somebody is a Nazi, a KKK member, and they have doubts at that moment, question to you, if you have doubts, do you go to somebody who hates Asian people?
No.
Okay, see, if a Nazi has doubts about his ideology, does he go to somebody who knows that they hate him?
Yeah.
Of course not. So you go talk to your own people in those groups, and they will put you back on track and say, no, you're wrong with your thoughts. They diffuse your doubts, reassure you. Everything is fine in those groups.
Good point.
So it's
very good point. Mm-hmm.
And this is why it's so important. We're talking about unconditional love and compassion. This is what has changed me. I was expecting him to hate me. I was like, dude, I'm hating Muslims. And I was like, why don't you hate me back? Mm-hmm. And he just didn't.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So we're going to let people just breathe in with that, because there's a huge, beautiful nugget for anyone who hates. And I had some people on my social media when I announced that you were coming on the show, and I put up that picture of the KKK that, was the thumbnail from that video from Vice. It's like, what are you doing? And as my younger daughter, you cannot find peace with hate. You cannot get to a place of peace when you're continuing with hate, no matter who the hate is to or for. And with that, we're going to go to break and thank the sponsor of today's show. If you'd like to be a sponsor of this like-minded, love-hearted show, please do contact me for affordable COVID rates. And we'll be back in 2 and 2 to take my advice. I'm not using it. Get happy with Dr. Marissa. Are you having a tough time feeling happy about what's going on around you? Do you want to work with someone who knows how to choose happiness no matter how fluxed up things are? Then contact Dr. Marissa, best-selling author of 8 Ways to Happiness from Wherever You Are, and that wherever includes the middle of a pandemic. Because pain in life is mandatory, but suffering is optional. There is hope and happiness for you right now, especially now. Schedule your Zoom Get Happy session at www.drmarissa.life today. And we're back. Yes, you are tuned in to Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa every Tuesday at naturally high noon here, broadcasting out of Burbank, California with UBN Go Studios. And then every Saturday at 6 with my CNBC NBC News Radio channel, KCAA, AM 1050, FM 102.3, FM 106.5, and anytime on demand, iHeartRadio for the audio and YouTube channel, Dr. Marissa for the audio visual. And today we have a fascinating guest who is going through how he started as a troubled child and moved into skinhead, Nazi, Neo-Nazi and KKK leader, and his moment of clarity, or his moment where his hate crumbled from his loaf of hate. I love that analogy, TM. And we're right now at that moment, and continue on, TM.
So you see what happened there when that Muslim at whose table I was sitting showed me that compassion, and I was like, I'm hating Muslims, and he at the time he was just giving me back this damn love, nothing but damn love, and I didn't want that. I'm hating you. You gotta hate me back, because this is what everybody did. This is what's normal. This is what society does. What they don't like, they start hating. And so that makes it hard for anybody to change, because if somebody hates you, that justifies what you're doing, even if you're a hater yourself. Excuse me. And this made it very difficult for me. So I went on and started analyzing these crumbs in front of me. And Germany has a big Muslim population. So I went out and found out now in those mosques, at least in most of them, you have bad apples anywhere. But no, they're not teaching how to slaughter Germans or to take over the country. They're just people, And just like at Himmet Özdemir, that was his name, at his dinner table, there was no couscous or falafel or whatever. They served chicken and fries that night. And that's also something that stunned me. That seemed so normal to me, I could resonate with that. Chicken and fries, man, I like that too. So I found out, all the other Muslims like chicken and fries too. And I found out they're just normal people. Started realizing that hate that I used to nurture just was wrong. And I realized how this whole white supremacist movement is built up on hate. And I realized also my hatred towards other minorities was wrong. I started denouncing my anti-Semitism. I used to be a Holocaust denier, but I realized, I know where it's coming from. And I said, okay, I know the Holocaust happened. I accepted that fact. So I thought I was fine. I didn't talk about my past for 10 years. There's one question I love to ask all the time. What do you guess why I didn't talk about my past?
You were ashamed. You were embarrassed.
Shame is one factor. And we call it toxic shame. Shame is always toxic. That's one problem. The other problem was fear of rejection. I was convinced if I tell somebody about my past, just like you said, people said when you put that picture on there, Marissa, what are you doing?
Right.
And if I tell somebody about my past, I was convinced people will turn their backs on me. So I didn't talk much about it. Now,
did you get any flack from your followers, or did anybody find you from you were the leader of these actively hating KKK neo-Nazi? Did they find you? Did they look for you?
That is a very interesting thing. Yes, in that movement, there has been incidents where formers, as we call them, people who exit those groups, where they get murdered or hurt. But for the most part, not. The white supremacist, the far-right extremist movement it's a phenomenon. Once you leave, they try to downplay your role and will tell you, oh, he never was really like that. He never really was in the movement. They would try to come up with stuff like that and downplay your role. That is more their way how to discredit you rather than to hurt you, because they also know they will go to prison if they hurt you.
Right. Did they do that to you? Did they do that to you?
In my case, it was the same thing and still is. And the second thing is, first, I retired. I didn't denounce my ideology publicly because I didn't talk about it at all. I was just gone. So that wasn't a big deal. Later, it was different. 2012, I got outed. That's a coming out. And you know what a coming out means to somebody who has a skeleton in the closet? It's not always a skeleton, But for me, it was a skeleton in the closet, and I was not in charge of my own coming out. And this was a problem. Somebody is in charge of you coming out, then it will look bad. It's like a gay person, for example. If a gay person is in charge of their own coming out, they are in charge of the narrative. If somebody else is doing that, then they're in charge and can make it look as a bad thing.
Right.
And this is what happened to me. I can't really compare the two things, but in my case, it was pictured as a very bad thing, and nobody asked if I was already out or not 10 years because I didn't talk about it. So I had to start reflecting on the past, and I had a big problem with that because I didn't have a helping hand, and that changed I moved the same year, 2012, to the US. By the way, I moved to Memphis, Tennessee, with an African-American population of almost 70%. So great chance to explore another one.
So why there? How did you pick there of all places?
It was a pure coincidence and a completely time for another story now.
Okay. All right.
That's coincidence.
So how did the forced coming out? So did the coming out happen in Europe or it happened in Mississippi?
In Europe, about the same time when I moved. It was not good. I lost pretty much all my friends. I lost the relationship. I lost everything I had. And I was like, okay, this is it. I always wanted to be in America. This is the chance. This is the time. And I moved again to Memphis with a friend. We wanted to open up a recording studio. Then I explored that Black community. And guess what? They all like chicken and fries, just like the Muslim community, just like I guess you like chicken and fries too. Pretty much, who doesn't, right? And
Michael Bernard Beckwith.
I had my outing here in the US, also involuntarily. It was a newspaper, they got tipped off, and they had a big front page story about me. And I was like, okay, my life is over once again, And I had clients that I lost and everything. But the US likes redemption more than Germany. The difference might be because Germany got its ass kicked, pardon my French, got its ass kicked for what happened during World War II. This country hasn't, This country had its bad moments, but never was responsible. Nobody ever held this country responsible. So it's different, but therefore it's easier to change. The judgment is not as big as overseas. So there was a lot more chance for redemption. And I got a lot of people who kind of applauded me for my change. That people started reaching out. I said, well, I see you left that. How did you do that? I need help. Can you help me? And I was like, man, actually, I can be somebody who helps those people, be actually the person that I would have needed.
So KKK people, so racist people were coming to you and saying, I want out too. How did you do that? Wow, that's powerful. That's powerful.
Right. So that's when I started working with those people and started helping them get out of these environments. But it's trigger moments. And again, the most hateful leaders in that movement have their trigger moments every now and then. And this is when they see a chance that they can talk to somebody, then they're open for dialogue. You always have to pick your battles. Don't go to a Klan rally and try to change people. It won't work. Don't go to a Klan rally at all.
Yes.
We've seen in Charlottesville, it just doesn't work because what those groups want, they want you to come there, organize a counter rally, and hate you back. This is what they want. This is what they thrive on. This is what they live off.
Interesting.
If you don't do it, they're completely puzzled. That's like a Nazi group once went to Tupelo, Mississippi, and the citizens of Tupelo were smart. They didn't go there. They didn't go to the Nazi rally. They didn't counter protest, nothing. And one of the members of the Nazi party was like, man, this is so boring here. Why can't we hear people hating us and we could just smack them some chairs on their heads? And they couldn't. They said, that's the most boring rally ever.
Yeah, that's the nonviolence.
Thinking, why didn't they come? Why don't they hate us back? And this is exactly what it is. What's very important to understand, we're talking about Nazis and racists here. And you think, oh man, can I change those people? We have to start somewhere completely different. Look at this country right now, at this divided environment. And you have people hating each other because of how they vote. And this is what I say, we have to show the unconditional love and compassion. If that can change neo-Nazis and KKK leaders, then it can change people who hate each other because of how they vote. And this is the tricky part with unconditional love that I preach. Love people as human beings, but you can dislike the ideology, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So you can, loving and liking somebody is not the same. You know, that's like if you have children, it's the same thing. Parents who have children, they will witness at some point in their lives that the child is doing something that is not okay. It happens to every parent. It happens to my parents with me. It happened to me as a parent with my kids. And I said, you don't like my kid for that right now, right?
Yeah.
But did you stop loving your kid?
Yeah.
No. This is what unconditional love means. You still love your child. You don't abandon your child, no matter if you like your child right now. And this is like, let's say you're a Republican and you don't like liberals and Democrats, but you still should love them as human beings, or vice versa. You're a liberal, you're a Democrat. You're like, that person votes for Trump, probably hates me out. I hate that person back. And you see that, unfortunately, way too often. And this is the hard part. If you have somebody and say, I don't like this person, I don't like what this person does, then somebody like I is telling you, but you should love that person.
That's a little weird.
Right. It's like in a relationship. Look, me and my wife, we have a great relationship. But yes, there are moments in a relationship where you don't like each other, even if it's just for a minute.
But what about the whole idea of what you permit, you promote, or what you allow, you condone? So what if, you know, there's a child molester or an active shot someone because of the color of their skin? How do you unconditionally love or show compassion to someone like that, or a leader who actively is racist or shows racist behavior, or it's very difficult to be balanced around, hearing some of the things? How do you do that?
It's a little bit tricky. If you talk about a child molester, it's extremely tricky, of course, especially if the person already has molested children. You need prosecution for sure. You always need the law taking care of these people. Punishment, law punishment, you need that, but not social punishment. The people who have done something, law is taking care of them. They go to prison for what they've done, period. And the law is taking care of that. This is why resocialization doesn't work. If somebody comes out of prison and you had these big movements resocializing those people back in society, and for the most part, it doesn't work out. Those people always end up being in prison because they have that label. Oh, he's a felon. You're hiring them. You don't want them in your neighborhood. Again, when we talk about child molesters, that's a completely different thing. Maybe let's put that on the side. This is really, really tricky. But if we talk about somebody who already shot somebody, can somebody like that be resocialized? Maybe. If they paid for what they've done, can you forgive? It depends. It depends on the actions of the person, what they do with their new life when they get a new chance. This is also very important. For example, there was it the governor of Virginia, West Virginia, I believe, Democratic governor, who had the blackface scandal 2 years ago, right? And people asked me too, that he was blasted there and everything. And I said, well, people deserve a second chance, but only if they own their past and do something good. If they really have changed, say, hey, okay, I messed up there.
But when people don't admit that, when people continue to excuse what they say and do and don't come to that point, how do you love them? So I'm getting the time signal. So we're going to have you back, because this is like pretty juicy stuff right now, because it really does speak to what's going on in our country right now and what's going on with the world. And, there's that extreme of, unconditional love, and I love you no matter what. And then the discernment.
No matter what, I love you no matter what, but that doesn't mean you should leave issues unchecked. And especially if I love somebody, then I need to call out something. So like you said, can sit down with a KKK member and say, I love you as a human being. I respect you as a human being, but I don't respect what you're standing for. Let's talk. And there's one person I encourage everybody to look up, Daryl Davis. Look him up on Google. He actually was on the town hall with me.
Yes,
He's a
he
very good
was.
friend of mine. And of course, he's indestructible. He's a big black man, and he goes to Klan rallies. He befriends Klan people and encourages them to change because he shows them respect. I don't encourage anybody normal to do that. Don't do that. You have to pick your battles. Pick your battles in your community with people who love different, who pray different, who look different, who may come from a different country, or even who vote different. And you may not like them for the one or the other, but you should show the unconditional love. For example, I have neighbors in our neighborhood. We don't agree politically at all. But we leave that for a moment on the side and say, okay, we have to show each other at least unconditional love. And then we can talk about these things too, but we have to respect each other. If we lose the respect and start calling each other names, and that leads to dehumanizing. And if that leads to dehumanizing, then this country is on a very bad way. We've seen that in Germany in the 30s and 40s of the last century, where dehumanizing leads to. Because it's so much easier to chase the racist down the street and bash him or hit him, or chase the baby killer down the street, depending where you stand, and hit him with a baseball bat or shoot him or whatever, than Jill or Jeff. As soon as you take the names away, take the humanity away, and label them with something that is much easier to hate. Then we're in trouble, and we're already in trouble. This is why we say we have to go back and get people to know as Jill and Jeff, as the human beings that they are, and these labels, rip down those labels. And
Absolutely.
And just find out what the commonalities are. And then you find out, okay, you may vote different, but the rest, we worry the same about our children. We eat the same, we drink the same, we pay the same taxes, we have the same troubles how to make money, to make ends. It's
chicken and fries.
Chicken and fries. Even Jewish community. I'm a big supporter of the Jewish community now.
Yes, and we didn't get to that, and we didn't get to the tattoos, and we didn't get to a number of things, and we really do have to end. So one, I want to make sure that everybody knows how to follow up with you and support you. So it is tmgarret.com. Is that your website? Yeah. And it's R 1 T, correct?
Correct.
So you can there. And the last question that I always ask my guests, but we're going to see if we can't get you on next week again to continue this, because I think we kind of left it halfway here, and maybe we can get the KKK whisperer on too, but your friend, but Freddie, what or who are you most grateful to or for?
I think my wife, because she accepts me with my past, and she never judged me for it. And she's my best friend and my greatest supporter.
Hashtag relationship goals. What's her name?
Harmon.
Harmon. All right. Thank you so much. This has been a very quick and full of juicy stuff for us to practically apply. I will bring him back next week. He just agreed. So we'll continue this conversation. He's got this great organization, C.H.A.N.G.E, that helps rehabilitate. I don't know, there's got to be a better word than that. People who don't want to be hate racists anymore, which I think is a very important effort, because we can't hate haters. It's not going to get us anywhere. This is Dr. Marissa. I don't know if I have time for Balance Bar, but I don't. So I just want to sign out and thank you very much, T.M. Garret, for coming on. And this has been a great conversation. It's not, for my special series, it's not black and white, or is it?
No.
Keep it tuned to Dr. Marissa. Take my advice. I'm not using it. Get happy. Peace in. Peace out. Oh, we're going to get you to do that too. TM, ready? Peace in. Peace out. World peace through inner peace.
Inner peace. That's it.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week.